I think a lot of us prepare more for what the baby's room is going to look like, or, the stuff that we're going to get for our baby than we do what it's actually going to look like. And so, I work in private practice. I also have programs that I'm creating. And as part of the postpartum program that we're creating, we're really talking about big picture discussions that can help support and navigate that transition. And so looking at things like, what is your environment set up like? Like how, to the point of like, are you walking in your house and you feel overwhelmed as it is because you have so much stuff? And so maybe before baby comes, instead of focusing on like getting all this new baby stuff, is like, what can we get rid of? Because we all know how it feels when you walk into a bedroom and your bed is made and it's clean. That is such a feeling of like calm and peace, versus if you walk into your bedroom and there's clothes all over the floor and the bed isn't made. So even thinking about things like, how do you feel in your current environment right now? And how can we set up your environment so it doesn't feel overwhelming? And how can we get systems in place? And to talking about your relationship. So how are you feeling with your partner? Who is responsible for what?
Oh, for sure.
And
That can
having,
cause all kinds of friction, right? If you don't know
yeah.
that going in.
Yeah, because how many things do you do just naturally, automatically on a daily basis where your partner or your loved ones have no idea that you're doing that? And once baby comes and you're trying to focus on your recovery and what's going on with you, you're not focused on all the minutia, and those things can be forgotten, or bills can be not paid, or, all of a sudden you're not getting the groceries delivered or whatever it is. And that just feels taxing. And I feel like as women, we have a hard time asking for what we need. And so being just really upfront, even before the baby comes, of like, here is a list of things that I'm doing right now. And when you write that list, you're going to be like, how does one person do all of that? But writing down all of those things and then figuring out, okay, what do I feel good about delegating? Because there's going to be some things as a woman that you just want to take care of. Like, you do it really well and you really want to keep that control. And then there's going to be things where you're like, yeah, somebody else can do that. Like, I hate taking out the garbage, or no, you can totally do my laundry. That's fine. And then figuring out what that would look like. Is that something you're going to delegate to your partner? Is it something that you're going to say, okay, friends that want to come visit me to see the baby, this is like your ticket to entry. Like, if you want to come and hold the baby, then I want you to help out with this task. Like, walk the dog and then you can hold the baby. Or, do you want to hire it out? Do you want to have groceries delivered to your doorstep? Do you want to hire somebody to watch your toddler? And just really be realistic, and almost to a point where you're like, I don't think I need that much help. Like, that's probably how much help you actually need when you have your baby. And so really getting things lined up so that you are taken care of and you can rest those first 30 days if possible. I mean, that's really what a lot of cultures do, is they have this sitting, like sit the month, right? Where they have people take care of them so they can really nourish their body and repair from that delivery. And then, as a dietitian, I focus a lot on food. And so we talked about how food can play a role in how we're feeling and how we're thinking, and it can impact our mental health. And so having food ready to go, having really healthy options at your fingertips, so you're not grabbing for something that is a processed food bar or a fast food all of the time in the postpartum period, can make a huge difference. So what I talk about here is, in the last trimester, could you double whatever you're making and then freeze that for after baby comes? If you're making a ground beef, yeah, because, sometimes what we like to do, and I did this with my first, and I learned after my first, is I had a weekend where I just did a massive meal prep to get all these frozen meals for baby. And when you're in your third trimester, you don't want to be standing that long in the kitchen. Like, you're like tired. You don't want to be like meal prepping and planning all day. Some people do, and it can work out, but it might be easier to just do it little by little and just store things away for later. Setting up a meal train so that people are delivering food to your door at specific times throughout the week whenever you feel is best. And so there are websites that you can go on, say, hey, look, here are my food preferences. Here's when I would like you to deliver food. And they can sign up and leave it at your door or bring it in and hang out with you if that's more comfortable. So meal trains are great. And then, we have all these options. We have food that can be delivered to our door. We can have meals that are delivered to our door. We have meal boxes that have the ingredients all lined up for us. So using those things to our benefit so that we can nourish ourselves well in the postpartum.
Yeah, I think that that's key. And that's really a good tip about doing the meals. in advance. I really never thought of it. And what are some other tips that you can give moms to help? Because I think that we get stuck in overwhelm. When you have a baby, you really didn't know what to expect. You didn't really realize that it wasn't a myth about being up every night late and the baby crying and all of that. And also, let's say you have a baby and you have a two-year old, or, what are some ways that we can help ourselves not to be overwhelmed?
Well, I think just being realistic with what you can and can't do and what your priorities are on a day-to-day basis is important. And so if we were somebody that liked a really clean house before baby came, we have to be realistic that it's probably not going to be as clean, right? We're going to have to compromise in some area of our life. We can't try to maximize and make everything perfect. And so figuring out what your priority is every day, and maybe it's just 3 things. Maybe your priority is making sure that baby's fed, making sure you are resting as much as possible, and, doing one thing, like making something for dinner that night. Like, we have to really lower the bar for ourselves instead of thinking high picture. I think asking for help is so important. We really do want to do all the things. And so, like I said, with that list, making sure we are delegating as much as we can. I think getting help for our toddler, even if we think, we have a toddler, we're going to have this baby, maybe thinking about, can we do a baby share with somebody else where your friend or your neighbor takes the baby a couple of days, or your toddler a couple of days a week, so you can have time to rest with your baby and your toddler can get their run out and their energy out, and you don't have to pay for it. Or maybe think about, do I want to put my toddler in a daycare for a couple of hours a week or part-time, so that I can just focus on me and the baby and healing, and I'm not trying to watch my toddler for the disaster he's making in the other room while I'm trying to hold my baby and figure out breastfeeding and all of that kind of stuff. So getting as much support as we can. And it's hard. I mean, in the US, we don't have the maternity leave, the paternity leave that we really need. We often aren't living by families. And so if you can get your family member or a family member to come stay with you for a little bit to help reduce some of the housework, that can be really helpful. I know some families will even move in with their family or their in-laws to take off some of the pressure. Finding your support groups, going to those Mommy and Me classes and seeing all the resources that are available to you can be helpful. And so there are some places like MOPS where you can go and you can drop off your kid and you can have an hour with other moms and just get that really necessary me time. Or you can find a local gym that has a daycare and drop your little one off so you can get that necessary me time. Because as we were talking about, if you can exercise and you can take that time for you, that self-care, you're going to feel less overwhelmed and be able to come back into your role as motherhood feeling more refreshed.